as of late, Final Fantasy XIV Online has been getting a lot of attention, especially with the announcement of the Endwalker expansion pack. And this is something that looks very interesting because we've learned that there's going to be several new features that's going to be included in the game, such as the inclusion of new jobs, the ability for players to level up their characters to level 90. Also, we're going to see the return of Anima from Final Fantasy X. He's going to be included in this game as a primal. There's a lot of cool things that people are looking forward to in the Endwalker expansion pack. And mind you, the last expansion pack that we got for Final Fantasy XIV was Shadowbringers, which came out back in 2019. Before that, we got Stormblood, and then we got Heaven Sword, and then before that, we got A Realm Reborn. Now, the very first game, the very first Final Fantasy XIV game from 2010, that one was panned by a lot of people, but luckily things got better over time. Hopefully, this upcoming game is going to be better than Shadowbringers, because Shadowbringers was one that was praised by many people, by critics, by fans, by people who played it. It was praised by many people for its storytelling aspect, for its soundtrack, and the way it looked in terms of visuals and graphics. In fact, a lot of people would argue that, or maybe some people would argue that Final Fantasy XIV Online is more popular than Final Fantasy XV, but it really depends on what you look for in a video game. Some people are bigger fans of MMORPGs than they are of RPGs, and I remember MMORPGs were more popular back in the early teens, especially between 2010 and 2013 during that time period. But I think it would be safe to say that with all the expansion packs that was included in Final Fantasy XIV, that Final Fantasy XIV Online definitely stood the test of time, and it's still a huge attraction as an MMORPG game. And Final Fantasy XV, even though it's very successful, in fact, it managed to hit over 8.6 million in sales worldwide, despite Final Fantasy XV being very successful. A lot of people are looking forward to Final Fantasy XVI already, which is a game that we still have very little details about. But hopefully Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, this expansion pack, is going to be something that keep us entertained until Square Enix reveals more details about Final Fantasy XVI in the future.